My name is Margaret Ellis, and for years I believed being a good mother-in-law meant knowing when to speak and when to stay quiet. I never wanted to be the woman who interfered in her son's marriage. My son Andrew had married Lauren 6 years earlier. Lauren was intelligent, ambitious, and extremely independent. From the beginning, I respected that. They had bought a beautiful 3-bedroom house shortly after their wedding. Andrew worked in software management while Lauren ran a small online clothing business from home. I lived about 20 minutes away. I visited when they invited me. I never showed up without calling, and whenever Lauren said she needed space, I gave it to her. For years, I thought we had a good relationship. Then one Thursday evening, Lauren called me. "Margaret, I need to tell you something." Voice sounded unusually excited. "What's going on?" "My parents are moving in with us." I paused. "Moving in? Yes. How long?" Lauren laughed. "Probably permanently." I sat down. "Andrew, no, of course. He's okay with it. He's my husband. He supports me." I didn't say anything. Then Lauren added something I wasn't expecting. "I just wanted to let you know because things are going to be different around here." I understood what she meant. Her parents weren't visiting. They were moving into my son's house, the house Andrew and Lauren had purchased together. I tried to stay neutral. "If you two are comfortable with it, that's your decision." "Exactly." She sounded relieved, but there was something strange about the conversation. Lauren wasn't simply informing me. She sounded like she wanted me to understand that my place in their lives had changed. A few days later, I visited their house for dinner. Lauren's parents, Harold and Denise, were already there. Their belongings were stacked in the hallway. Boxes covered the living room. I looked around. "Really moving in?" Denise smiled. "We're excited." Harold laughed. "Finally, we'll have family nearby." I smiled politely. Andrew walked into the room. "Mom." He hugged me, but I noticed something immediately. He looked uncomfortable. Later, while Lauren and her parents were in the kitchen, Andrew pulled me aside. "Mom, can I talk to you?" "Of course." He lowered his voice. "I didn't know they were moving in permanently." I stared at him. "Told me it was temporary." "How temporary?" 3 months. I looked toward the kitchen. "Then why is she saying permanently?" Andrew shook his head. "I don't know." He looked exhausted. "Tried talking to her." "What happened?" "She says her parents need us." I nodded slowly. "Do they?" Andrew sighed. "That's the problem." Harold had recently retired. Denise had stopped working because of a back injury. They had been renting an apartment, but their rent had increased. Lauren saw moving in with them as the easiest solution, but Andrew was worried about something else. His parents had started treating the house as if it belonged to them. Harold had already decided which room he wanted. Denise had started reorganizing the kitchen. And Lauren had told Andrew that they would need to turn the guest room into an office for her father. Andrew had never agreed to any of it. The following week, things became worse. I received a phone call from Lauren. "Margaret, we're going to need you to understand something." "Okay." "With my parents living here, things are going to be crowded." I waited. "So maybe you shouldn't come over as often." I almost laughed. "I haven't visited in weeks." "I know. Then why are you telling me this?" She hesitated. "Because I don't want misunderstandings." I understood she wasn't asking me to give them space. She was pushing me out. I said calmly, "That's fine." Then I hung up, but I wasn't angry. Instead, I started thinking. The next weekend, Andrew came to my house alone. He looked exhausted. "Mom, I think my marriage is falling apart." I made him coffee. "What happened?" "Lauren wants her parents to stay indefinitely." "You don't?" "No." He rubbed his forehead. "I told her we need boundaries." "What did she say?" "She said I'm choosing my mother over her parents." I shook my head. "That's not fair." "I know." Then Andrew said something that changed everything. "There's another problem." "What?" "Her parents aren't just moving into the house." He opened his phone. "Been asking me about the mortgage." I stared at him. "Harold thinks if they're living there, they should have a say in the property." I immediately understood. This wasn't just about family, it was about control. Andrew and Lauren's house was worth significantly more than when they bought it. Harold had started suggesting renovations. He wanted to sell part of the backyard. He wanted to convert the garage into a rental unit. And according to Andrew, Harold had even suggested refinancing the mortgage to fund the renovations. Andrew refused. That's when Lauren became furious. A few days later, Andrew called me again. "Mom, can you help me with something?" "What?" "I need somewhere to keep some important documents." "Bring them here." That evening, Andrew arrived with a box. Inside were mortgage documents, property records, bank statements, and copies of emails. I looked through everything, then I noticed something. Lauren's parents had been discussing the property with a real estate agent. Without Andrew knowing, they were considering selling the house. I looked at Andrew. "Does Lauren know?" "I think so." I couldn't believe it. The next morning, Andrew confronted Lauren. She admitted it, but she didn't apologize. She said, "My parents are trying to build a future for all of us." Andrew replied, "It's our house." Lauren became angry. "You always make everything about yourself." That night, Andrew left the house. He stayed at my home. For the first time in 6 years, my son asked me what he should do. I didn't tell him to leave his wife. I didn't tell him to fight. I told him something much simpler. Protect yourself legally. Then decide what you want emotionally. Andrew contacted a family lawyer. The lawyer reviewed everything. The house was jointly owned by Andrew and Lauren. Her parents had absolutely no ownership rights. They couldn't sell it. They couldn't refinance it. They couldn't make financial decisions about it. But there was another issue. The lawyer discovered that Lauren had already signed an agreement with a contractor for major renovations. The contract was worth almost $60,000. Andrew had never approved it. He immediately cancelled the work. Lauren was furious. Then something unexpected happened. Harold admitted that he had encouraged Lauren to move forward without Andrew. He believed Andrew would eventually accept it. That was the final breaking point. Andrew moved out temporarily. Lauren stayed in the house with her parents, but suddenly the situation changed. The mortgage was still due, utilities were still due, property taxes were still due, and Lauren's business had been struggling. Without Andrew's income, she couldn't cover everything. 2 months later, Lauren called me. "Margaret, can we talk?" I agreed. She came to my house alone. She looked completely different, tired, humbled. She sat across from me. "Owe you an apology." I didn't say anything. "I treated you like you were the problem." I nodded. "You told me to stay away." "I know. You told me your parents were taking my son's place." She looked down. "I was wrong." Then she said something I never expected. "I thought having my parents move in would make my life easier." What happened? Everything became harder. Her parents argued constantly. Her father wanted control over the house. Her mother blamed Andrew for everything, and Lauren realized that she had pushed away the one person who had never tried to control her. She started crying. "I thought you were going to be angry when all this happened." I was hurt. "Didn't you say anything?" "Because it wasn't my marriage." She looked at me. "And what did you do instead?" I smiled. "I gave you space." She nodded. I wish I had understood that earlier. Few weeks later, Andrew and Lauren started counseling. Harold and Denise eventually moved into a smaller apartment of their own. It wasn't easy. But they survived. Lauren and Andrew eventually decided to keep their marriage. They made one rule: no parent would ever move into their home permanently without both of them agreeing. A year later, Lauren invited me to dinner. When I arrived, the house felt completely different. There were no boxes, no extra furniture, no arguments. Just Andrew and Lauren sitting together at the dining table. Lauren stood up and hugged me. "Thank you." "What?" "For not interfering." I smiled. "That was probably the hardest thing I've ever done." She laughed, then she said, "I finally understand something." "What?" "Boundaries aren't rejection." I looked at her. "They're respect." I smiled, and that night I realized something. When Lauren announced that her parents were moving in, she expected me to argue. She expected me to become jealous. She expected me to fight for my place in my son's life. Instead, I did something she never expected. I stepped back. I let her make her own decision. And eventually she learned the consequences of that decision herself. Sometimes the most powerful response isn't an argument. It's giving people enough space to discover the truth on their own. And when they finally come back, you can decide whether the door is still open.